How's it going, everyone? So today I wanted to bring you a no hope guide. So with the addition of matchmaking to no hope, finally, after almost a year of the game, we finally have the ability to join other people without setting up looking for group posts, which can be a pain to manage sometimes. So there's an influx of people trying out the no hope game mode, and possibly some people that just bought the game for the holidays. So with that going in, I wanted to give a no hope guide for the newbies. And full disclosure, I have not beaten the game on No Hope full through by myself. I have gotten through about half of the game through No Hope, but even though I haven't beaten the full game on No Hope, I still believe I have some great info to help new players get started with the game mode. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So to introduce the video, the introduction, I want to talk about the No Hope game mode itself. What makes it different from Nightmare? What's all the hype about? So right off the bat, we can see that you get all your cards, which is great. That was a new addition a few patches ago. You have no respawn points. So that means if you die anywhere during the level, it's not like Nightmare where eventually you can revive the guy, take him out of the webbing, and then you're good. No, if you die during the level, you are dead until you reach the safe room.
Lisa?
So having extra lives, having a dedicated healer with a defib is imperative to keep the team going. Lives do not recover in the safe rooms either. So once you lose a life, it's gone for good. So it's very important to also have a healer that can give back lives with medical professional. And you have roaming bosses. Typically on almost every level, there will be a hag, a ogre, or a breaker on every level typically. So you have to have enough team damage. Team damage is important. You have no first aid cabs. Well, you do have first aid cabs, but you don't get any free charges on those anymore. So it becomes even more important to have someone on your team as the dedicated, I would call it utility class, where they have toolkits, usually a Carly with some reuse chance and some extra quick slots to be able to hold those toolkits to get into the safe rooms, and then additionally use the first aid cab to give a teammate a life back, almost like a secondary healer. You have more mutation corruption cards, so that means you have charred ridden, riot zombies, the new pain in the ass army zombies, and the bile ridden, the explosive ridden, everything. They appear more frequently, so it's really important to have burner cards like the hazmat suit. It has a lot of value. So I typically, when I'm playing with my team, we always play at least one hazard suit. You have heavy friendly fire damage as well. So if you're rocking a high damage shotgun build and you accidentally shoot your buddy, which has happened to me, they're gonna go down in one hit.
So, you all set to go hunting? Sorry, I thought you were a deer.
So it's very important to have clear communication on who's going to be where during a team fight, or put the training wheels on and put on the card down in front. So be aware of endless hordes as well. Endless hordes are a lot more common in the no hope difficulty. You can usually tell by the new icon in the top right. If it's a red circle, that means it's an endless horde. Additionally, copper piles only drop in 25 copper increments. On Nightmare, they could drop in 50 or sometimes 75, I believe. But in No Hope, they are fixed to 25 copper piles. And that's the highest amount you're going to get. So it's imperative to be running copper cards in your deck to help out with the copper economy, because it's going to be very tough to afford those team upgrades by just looting the copper on the map with no copper cards. And finally, you have no healing and ammo recovery or trauma healing in each safe room. So once you get to the safe room, your health and your ammo is going to be exactly where you left it. It's not like you get to the safe room and you're going to heal a little bit of trauma, a little bit of ammo, and you're going to be great for the next level. So No Hope, you really have to dig into those class identities, a healer, a tank. You have to have a utility person to provide ammo for the team. You have to include these types of playstyles into your group comp. You also take an incredible amount of trauma damage in No Hope, almost double of what you would take in Nightmare. So it's very important to have your dedicated healer have the ability to negate or remove trauma damage. And a pro tip, temporary health, that little blue bar that goes over your extra health, your actual health, that temporary health 100% negates any trauma that you would have received from a hit. So it's very important for the healer that's on your team to be able to provide either temporary health or lots of trauma healing, or both would be ideal. So we've gone over what makes No Hope difficulty different and much more challenging than Nightmare difficulty. Now let's go over the specific strategies and the specific play styles that you should be incorporating into your group comp to tackle the increased difficulty. When I talked about roles earlier, the specific roles that you as your specific cleaner should be fulfilling for your team, these are very similar.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
These are very similar to your traditional MMO classes, your tank, your healer slash support, your utility class, and your damage or your DPS class. Now, why do I refer to these as classes? You technically don't have classes in Back 4 Blood. Well, you should still be implementing the class mentality, because theoretically you could be spreading out your cards evenly between damage, healing yourself, utility for toolkits, and a little bit of tankiness. But what ends up happening is you have 4 people in your group who are a little bit of everything but masters of none. You could be saving a lot of card slots by sticking to one traditional role. That way, when you come across resources, you're not all fighting for the same resources. You have better loot allocation. So let's say you stumble upon a medkit, you know exactly who to give that medkit to. And when a horde is coming, you know exactly who's going to be up in the front, taking the bulk of the damage, the tank, most of the time your melee tank, instead of everybody jumbling around, everybody trying to fulfill the same role. It just works.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
To think of it like an MMO with your own distinct classes. So without further ado, let's get into these roles in Back 4 Blood and No Hope. The first one, of course, is the bread and butter of every group. You absolutely need this role in every single act you're going to be doing. That is the healer slash support. This is usually a doc or a mom. Their main goal is they need to be able to heal trauma and give back extra lives when your team loses them. So doing that, you have to slot cards like antibiotic ointment, EMT bag. You need to be building up your healing efficiency. You absolutely have to slot in a medical professional for your defibs and your med kits to heal more trauma. I'll go more into a deep dive of character builds later date, like a doc build or a mom build. This is just more a general overview of the role you should be fulfilling. So they provide trauma healing, extra lives, and depending on if you're going a doc or a mom, they usually play the healer slash support. Mom is better like as a support, providing lots of temp health, whereas doc really shines for healing trauma damage. So whichever route you're going to go, you absolutely have to fulfill the support and healer role. And that's giving useful buffs, protection, healing, trauma healing, and giving back extra lives. And with one final nasty pill to swallow, every healer and support has to run the card Needs of the Many. 100% required. And there's going to be people complaining and moaning that, oh, I don't want to run that card. We're going to be fine. Just use a burner card for group hug, which I guess you could do. But then you're also screwing yourself out of much greater burner cards like, what was it? Windfall gives you the copper for the whole team, a hazard suit for more, because of so many charred and explosive and acid ridden. You're screwing yourself by requiring you to use that specific burner card every single level. There's much better burner cards that you can slot besides group hug to get that extra life. So whoever the healer slash support is, they absolutely have to slot in the card Needs of the Many, because you don't have an extra life in No Hope. The next class I'm going to cover is your tank slash crowd control. So what do I mean by crowd control? Well, you have so many ridden that are swarming you, and it's incredibly difficult to kill every single one before they completely surround you. So having a dedicated crowd control person to take care of the ridden in large quantities before they swarm your team is imperative. And also your tank, who's usually going to be a melee class, that's the best way to do it. This is going to be either a Charisse or a Holly holding the front lines, You get behind a doorway, the horde's coming, and the Sharice and the Holly just go to town with a machete or a fire axe, whatever. They're holding down that door. And for crowd control, this is usually somebody running experimental T5 or, a pipe bomb build. Hoffman is really good for this role. I got a buddy that plays Hoffman really well with this kind of comp. So you pop T5 when you're getting swarmed and enveloped, and you throw pipe bombs when the horde is coming and you can see them in the distance. So you have a lot of ways to crowd control the hordes. Next, we have the utility class. This class brings a lot of group buffs to the table, lots of group values and lots of specialization in order to help the team on a greater level. So what do I mean by that? That is toolkits, that is scavenger cards, that is usually going to be a Carly or a Hang. They really excel with the Hang rework. He really excels with food scavenger. If you can slot the new food scavenger cards, that really helps your team out. You find food in the level and then you turn it into a gourmet meal. That's another way of healing trauma and health and taking some of that pressure off of your healer. And Carly as well, if you're running a toolkit build, that way you can get inside those tool rooms which have weapons, ammo, they have the first aid cab. Sadly, you don't get it for free anymore, but with Carly, who is the best at doing this, you can use a toolkit, and hopefully with Magician's Apprentice and the reuse chance on toolkits, you can use that cab maybe 2 or 3 times in a row, if you get lucky, before that toolkit gets used up. And that allows your team to get back extra lives and heal some trauma damage. Again, taking the pressure off of your healer as more of like an off healer, if you will. And then providing buff cards like Amped Up, which gives your team health when the horde is called. On Your Mark is a great card to keep your ammo economy going. I usually slot these cards on the Carly, who adds great team buffs, Inspiring Sacrifice, and so on. So this class adds a lot of group utility, but sadly they rely on a good team comp in order to take care of tall mutations, in order to tank hallways, and in order for them to keep their health bar up with healing. So utility is best played with a well-balanced team comp. If you're just playing utility by itself, they can struggle a lot. So the last role is DPS, self-explanatory. Usually this is going to be a walker or a sniper Jim or a grenade Hoffman. Hoffman can either go crowd control or he can go full-on DPS, depending on if you're going to go full grenades with accessory damage or full pipe bombs with lots of reuse chance, Pinata, Magician's Apprentice. So what is the DPS's job? What is their role? Their role is to kill shit before it can fuck up your team. So in No Hope, the damage is so extremely high that I'm kind of pivoting away from the belief that you need to build up tankiness and health and damage mitigation, and switching it more to you need to be able to kill threats before they even get close to you. Because the damage is so incredibly high that even if you spec in to lots of damage mitigation, lots of self-healing, you're still going to be 1 or 2 shot by a bruiser that's monstrous. So a DPS class with extremely high damage. So they're running glass cannon, they're running large cal rounds, silver bullets, the whole 9 yards. Every card in their deck almost is dedicated to bullet damage, weak spot damage, whatever. Their job is to take out the incredibly tanky tall boys and bruisers and the bosses. So team shooting is going to be a lot easier with a dedicated DPS, and you're going to be able to clear content much quicker. So ogres are not going to be a whole wipe situation. Any boss counter is extremely difficult without a dedicated DPS. So keep that in mind. You need at least one of each of these classes. Now you can kind of mix and match these a little bit, but the way I would prefer is to just have one person fulfilling each of these roles. So to close out this video, I wanted to give you guys 5 general No Hope tips that can be used in any act and are very universal, just to kind of give you some food for thought to end the video. So the first tip that I would give you guys is maintain your copper economy. Copper economy is extremely difficult to maintain in No Hope. Every player in your group needs to be running at least 1 copper card in order for your economy to be able to afford anything in the stores. Preferably, everybody should be running 2 copper cards, Share the Wealth and Copper Scab, But if you're really tight on cards, I would at least run Copper Scav. Every person on your team should be running at least Copper Scav. That way you can afford those extremely costly team upgrades. But those team upgrades really carry you through that challenging content. The second tip that I would give you guys is focus on trauma healing. Trauma healing is way more important than regular healing. If all you're building in your deck as the support / healer is healing efficiency and no trauma healing capability, you're really screwing your team, because almost never will you run into a situation where your teammate just needs regular healing. They're always going to need trauma healing as well. And if you don't stay on top of that trauma healing, whether with temporary health to mitigate it or trauma healing through field surgeon and medical expert, you're going to fall behind if you don't stay on top of it. Very much like a fast food cook who just lets their tickets pile up and waits until an hour into the lunch service to actually start cooking anything. You're going to have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time.
So the next tip that I want to give you guys is loot allocation based on role. So we already talked about different classes, right? DPS, healer, tank, and utility. So when you're coming across resources in the world, by the way, you need to have resource scavenger cards in your deck on No Hope, because resources do not spawn natively on the map. So as a healer, you need to be slotting in medical scavenger. As the offensive person, you need to be slotting in offensive item scavenger, and so on. They don't spawn on the map natively. So when you come across these resources, say a med kit or a grenade, you need to communicate with your team and give those resources to the appropriate person who can make the most out of it. Let's say you come across a pipe bomb. Instead of you grabbing it as the utility person, you don't have many cards built up to really take a full advantage of that pipe bomb. Well, Hoffman, his built-in passive is anytime he gets a kill, he has a chance to spawn an accessory or ammo. And if you want to add more value on top of that with cards like Pinata and Magician's Apprentice, maybe even some like a bomb squad, he is the best person to take full advantage of that pipe bomb. It's in your best interest to give that resource to him. Same thing goes for toolkits. Give that resource to Carly, the utility person. You come across a med kit in a supply box. Instead of using it yourself like a selfish dick, give it to the doc or the mom. They can use it to give you back an extra life. Or if somebody on the team is really hurt and you're looking fine, don't use it on you. Use it on the guy in the back who's got no extra lives and he's got 40 to 50 trauma he needs to heal. So giving resources to the person that can utilize it the most, it'll get you to those higher difficulty levels. Tip number 4 is going to be strong communication. Now, as I said, with No Hope matchmaking, that's a great way to bring people into No Hope. But you still don't want to just go into quick play and call it a day and just play with the person that you grouped up with. You're going to want to invite them to an Xbox Live party or a Discord chat or whatever console you're on or PC. You're going to want to be able to communicate with those people so that you can call out threats like, oh, a bruiser's coming around the hallway, or I see medical supplies behind this door. Can somebody use a toolkit to unlock it? These aspects of communication are extremely important in order to call out threats, in order to call out strategies. So proper loot allocation, calling out threats, donating money for team upgrades is very important. Let's say there's a really good team upgrade in the shop. You're going to want to collaborate with your team to have enough money to afford that team upgrade. So the 5th strategy I'm going to say is be willing to compromise on your card loadouts for the group. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, as Spock would say. You need to build your deck in a way that it not only supports you, but supports your team. And sometimes that comes with heavy sacrifices. Some cards in the game have a negative effect, and you're not going to want to slot that card because it gives you negative health or it gives you negative movement speed. But guess what?
Now I know that is a mighty big, nasty pill to swallow. But swallow it, you most certainly will.
So you need to be willing to make those changes to your deck. Communicate with your team in No Hope before you start your act and say, I'll run this card if you run this, and we can carry on through the act with the best possibly built group. So that's it, guys. That's my no hope guide, and this is aimed at the newer players that may be buying this game over the holidays, getting it on Game Pass, people that are giving it a try because of the matchmaking option. I hope you learned something. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. Bye-bye.